Joining me now, someone who has been covering Trump's financial peril very closely, Suzanne Craig. She's investigative reporter at the New York Times. Great to have you here.
Great to see you.
I want to start by setting the table of how this would normally work, just because I'm not sure how this does normally work.
We've never seen this before, so let's just go forward knowing that we've never seen something this large involving somebody like Donald Trump. But this is a huge bond he's got to come up with.
Okay, so that's actually answers my first question. There is no how this would normally work because you're not normally in a situation where you just got to come up with $500 million.
No, and that's why I've been carefully sort of working through some of the various avenues in the last few days because this is just so unusual. And he also has still some legal avenues left. And there's one thing I've learned about Donald Trump in my years of covering him. It's what you said, and it's don't count him out yet. He's facing a very, very harsh deadline on Monday, but he still has some avenues. One of them is an appeals court has to rule on this, and they're going to do so by Monday. I would expect it would come Thursday, probably Friday.
Okay.
And they could do a few things. They have some options. One is they could just say, let's stay this and put it off until the appeal has been seen through. I don't think that is going to happen, but it's one option. The other option they have is he came to them and he said, I'd like the appeal bond that I have to put up to be at $100 million. They rejected that. But they could come up with a compromise that isn't this $500 million that he has said he cannot meet.
Okay, so the $500 million question, there's some liquid market for these kinds of bonds at smaller amounts. Right?
Right.
Like if you had a civil judgment against you for $5 million, I don't have $5 million in cash, there's some posting of collateral where the bondsman posts it.
Collateral's really tough for these companies that take the appeals bond. They want cash. They're not in the real estate business.
Right. They don't want to own Trump Tower. What does that do?
Right. And who knows what that's going to be worth in 3 years or 2 years when this is seen through. They want something they can liquidate in the markets that night.
And clearly he doesn't have the cash.
He does not have the cash.
That's clear.
He's represented that. He may have some of it, and I'm going to get to that in a minute because I think everybody imagines come Monday, if this doesn't go his way, Letitia James is going to be there with the New York State Troopers with a padlock. They may put liens on properties, but they may also come and seize what cash he has, which could throw the Trump organization. And can they even meet their payroll come Tuesday if this goes forward? There are so many unknowns that are going to happen. But the other thing is that he just now, backing up to the appeals court that's going to rule, they could just reject him and then he can appeal that and go to a higher court. But Monday is still a deadline that he is facing.
Okay, so let's say, there's some off-road for an appeals court possible. Yeah. Let's say that off-road doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So before we get to the showing up the padlock, could you, again, it's fairly uncharted, right? Could you just do like a friendly loan? Like, yes. Could Elon Musk say, yes, it would be very useful for me as Elon Musk to have the nominee of one of the two major parties and the possible future president owe me an enormous amount of favor.
Right.
I'm going to post $500 million for him.
Right. That's one, I would imagine that one option is somebody could come forward and they could say, we're going to give this to you as a gift or a loan. Those are both taxable events and would cost the person doing it, and there would be paperwork involved. But that is one option. And the other option is that he could find somebody who he has a friendly transaction with to sell some properties.
Oh, I see. So like a quick sale.
One that I'm thinking of, and I don't have any reporting on this to say that it's happening. He owns a hotel in Las Vegas with a fellow by the name of Phil Ruffin. They are on very good terms. Phil Ruffin is a supporter of his politically. Phil Ruffin could say, I'm going to buy you out of your half of the hotel. And they could do a friendly transaction that would not take a long time. And let's say that transaction, any transaction that he comes up with, takes 60 days. Donald Trump may come to the courts and say, I'd like a little bit of extra time. I would imagine, does Letitia James want to trigger? She might say, okay, right. She might not, but that's another thing that could happen.
Okay, so someone loans him or gives him the money. I don't think gift, but someone loans the money. Some kind of friendly, relatively fast and streamlined financial transaction
Or one or two, because he needs a lot of money.
Right, so a partner buys him out of his half of the Vegas casino being an example.
And there's one other one, just really quickly, the appeals bonds that he's trying to arrange, they're still could happen, there's been a lot of negotiation, and when I read that in a paper, in the court papers, I think, well, there was a lot of discussion potentially about taking real estate as collateral. I still don't rule that out. I think it's unlikely, but who knows, right? It's just another option.
It just seems like if you take real estate as collateral, you just have enormous downside risk.
Huge.
Depending on what happens to the guy.
And some of them have loans on them, so they already
Right.
have obligations against them.
Yeah.
Right.
If anyone's watching this and wants my financial advice, I'm just letting you know I see some downside risk.
I don't want an office tower in New York either.
Yeah,
They're
right.
half full.
Right. Well, that's another great point. So, okay, now we get to the appeals court no offer out on the appeals court. He can't find someone to lend him the money or to raise the cash through sale. What happens then?
Then Letitia James comes to the court and she will start putting liens on the properties. I don't think we're going to see a situation where they're padlocked and she's going to take them and sell them, because she may have to give those back at the end if he is successful on appeal.
Right.
So that's a whole nother issue, but she will start to take possession potentially of properties or of if he has cash sitting there in accounts, that's also fair game, or also obligations that he has coming in. She could seize a rent roll. There's just so many options.
She could do that.
My understanding is yes, yeah. So
or the cash that he had. Like if, let's say
Right,
there's
and that's
$40 million
really
sitting in an account that they make payroll, whatever it is.
Right, and that's pretty, when you think about it from the Trump organization's point of view, they need cash to run the business. So these are all really scary things they are facing coming out of that massive court case that we had where they were found to have committed widespread fraud. But these are all the things, we just don't know what's going to happen, but these are just some of the options that people are talking about that, when they're looking at what are the potential things that could happen come Monday if it gets to Monday and we have a seizure.
Can I just circle around? I mean, this may be outside of your portfolio, so tell me if it is, but I'm just trying to sort of put this in context. When you said, this sort of thing we're sort of out past the frontier. I mean,
right.
When the tobacco settlement happens, or, there's enormous civil settlements or civil judgments sometimes that happen. Now, usually when there's settlements, right, you're structuring them over time.
That's right.
But even if there's an enormous judgment, right, are those just normally structured in different ways, or do they tend to be against better capitalized firms? Like,
usually that, or the other thing that's really significant about this is Donald Trump let it get to this point.
Right.
He should have settled this.
Right.
And
That's
I don't know. I mean, I think
usually
at some point
like
that might have been on the table. I think Letitia James at a certain point was pretty hell-bent on bringing this to trial, but because it got to this point, it is so severe now. And the options are just every day are getting fewer and fewer for him.
Right. And presumably, I mean, I hadn't thought of this before, but presumably one of the reasons that settlement is attractive is, aside from taking some discount on the total dollar amount where you're rolling the dice with a judge or a jury, you're also going to, as part of the settlement, figure out the structure of those payments.
Right.
Precisely so that you do not end up in the situation where you're maybe selling your office tower on a Sunday.
And another part of it is that you can't do business with any banks in New York, right? I mean, there's other pieces to this, too, that are just quite frightening for the Trump organization. I mean, they've boxed themselves in, and now they have until Monday. And there could be some sort of relief coming from the appeals court. But so far, the appeals court has said, no, they offered the $100 million as a sort of, can you meet us there while we go up on appeal? And that was rejected. And they may now say 200 or 300 is enough, with some other condition that I haven't thought of. And so that's sort of what we're waiting for immediately. I think we're going to see that before Monday.
All right, look for that. That was so illuminating. Thank you. Really appreciate it.